There you go. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining our class this evening on April 6th at 7 p.m. We are hosting our inaugural Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is the month of April. And so today we have with us Sally Rehas, who I've been knowing for the last 5 years. Her and I both competed for Miss Veteran America, and I'm representing her today and by wearing purple and showing the competition that we have. Sally has started her own nonprofit organization called Shine the Light Purple. But I am going to let Sally tell you more about her nonprofit organization, and then she can begin her presentation. Sally.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much, Cassandra. It is an honor to be here and be invited to do a little advocating. It means a lot to me, and I know it will mean a lot to those who will listen and get this opportunity to hear and watch these videos. So thank you. Thank you for everyone, Kit, Leslie, Regina, thank you. So a little bit about myself. I'm an 82nd Airborne Combat Veteran. I served a little bit over 6 years, so actually closer to 7 years. Every day counts, trust me. So I like giving credit to everything. After I got out of the military, I did meet Cassandra in 2016 in the competition for Miss Veteran America. And that was such a very inspiring opportunity. It motivated me to do more. And when I say do more, I meant that when I got out, I felt ashamed of getting out of the service. And being a veteran, or just even just serving our country, you want to do something that's bigger than you. And at that time that I was transitioning out of the military, I didn't know what that meant for me. I didn't know that I had a servant heart. Although I was doing a lot, trying to find my way and find my place, I didn't know where to go with it until Miss Veteran America. When we advocated for homeless female veterans, I realized what I'm more passionate about. What am I passionate about? And something that's dear and near to me, and actually my daughter, she's the co-founder of Shine the Light Purple. We are very passionate about domestic violence and human trafficking. And having April being the Sexual Harassment Awareness Month, I thought it was so important to start advocating and explaining to everyone, what does that mean? When you hear someone being a victim of sexual assault or being a victim of domestic violence or human trafficking, a lot of people don't know the answer. So Shine the Light Purple is literally shining the light on the purple ribbon. The purple ribbon signify all those situations or scenarios. And although they're all separate issues, they do intertwine. They're all core together. They twist and coil after each other. And the reason I say that is because they all have the similar forms of abuse. They all have the similar form of abuse, and the victims have the same process to recover. So Shine the Light Purple just brought, it was an opportunity for me and my daughter to raise awareness, to empower women, and most importantly is to not make you a target. So when I say you a target, all of us could be a target, women of all ages. Now, I know it's not gender biased. I know men also get assaulted, sexually harassed, or are targets to human trafficking. My daughter and I connected more with the females. And my daughter, now being a teenager, we realized that no one talks to them about this. No one tells them, until it's too late, until it happens to a friend, until it happens to a sister. So being in the military, similar to a lot of my sister, we all were victims to sexual harassment in one way or another. Some a little bit worse, in the case of either being raped, or some just being harassed, I also think the reason my daughter and I were so empowered to make it more official for Shine the Light Purple and becoming an organization, it was because Vanessa Guillian. And being a service member, being a veteran, your heart goes out to all our sisters. your heart goes out to a process that you know about, but we never talked about it. And if it wasn't for Vanessa's family, I don't think any of us would have spoken up. I think some of us do. We do see platform, MST, events. We see platform for PTSD. We see platform for veterans in the reference to like Ms. Veteran America. Some people share in that platform to share their experience of sexual assault, but you really don't see it everywhere. And you didn't see service member, especially active duty and veterans, speak of sexual assault and sexual harassment. So that is a little bit about me and my organization. My organization focuses every year on creating an event where we empower ladies of all ages. We try to teach them self-defense, because I don't know about you guys, but I learned self-defense when I was already 20. I think self-defense should be important when you're like 6, a young girl or gentleman, right? Walking to their house, that's not safe anymore. A lot of human trafficking are in churches, believe it or not, everyone. I'm not gonna throw too much statistic out there because I'm always told I'm the nerd because I throw the statistics out there. In Shine a Light Purple, my daughter, she's more of the creative one. Like, how can we bring all these ladies together to raise awareness from younger to older so they can learn how to not be a target? So self-defense is important in all ages. Another thing is empowering. In order to avoid being a target of any of these situations and issues, is you have to have confidence. You have to be a woman with confidence, a young lady with confidence. One of the first things we try to teach the young ladies and older ladies as well is if you're walking around with your head down, you don't show any confidence. But if you walk and your head is high and like you know where you're going, you're a woman with a purpose, you're going somewhere, the bad people out there will have you being a less target. They will be actually intimidated by you. So there's certain things that my daughter and I, in the creative, she's the creative, I'm more of the business side of things, that we realize were important for everyone, just to raise awareness and to support victims. So the first time we ran our Shine a Light Purple, we didn't call it Shine a Light Purple then, it was in 2012. In Virginia. My daughter and I created an event. She hosted it. She's like, I'll host. She picked what we're going to treat everyone with, a meal, what dessert, and how we're going to get the kids involved. And she goes, let's do this. Let's find a shelter of domestic violence, sexual assault victim, human trafficking. Again, they all coil together. So if you hear me saying human trafficking, domestic violence, sexual assault, they do connect in different ways. And we could talk about that later if you have any question. But in 2012, my daughter said, let's find a shelter that has a lot of kids. We have found, and studies have shown, that if you're a victim of domestic violence, human trafficking, or sexual assault, your kids are survivors of survivors, and it could affect them as well. So her creativity was, okay, everyone who comes to this event, will host them, but they have to bring a gift for the kids, one for a boy and one for a girl. And then the parents, the adults who came to the event, they bring personal hygiene. So a lot of shelters, they get a lot of clothes, they get a lot of coats, they get sometimes personal hygiene, but they get the hotel sizes. A lot of shelters started telling us through these studies of creating these events, my daughter and I, that full-size products is really hard to get to. And some of these victims in shelters, are there for longer than 30 days. And so that's when my daughter and I started going, wow, there's so much we didn't know about the victims and how to help them. So that's how it started. So in 2012 in Virginia, and then we moved to Alabama because we're a military family. I got out, but my husband was still in. In Alabama, we found other shelters. And we did it again. We hosted an event annually. And every shelter, we started noticing how they all coil together, all these situations that are unfortunate. So we're very passionate about our victims and our survivors. We want to learn and continue to learn how to prevent it so we could be proactive and also help those who survived. Any questions? Because I know I could keep talking on and on about my organization. You guys want to talk about Vanessa Guillen?
Yes, let's. I would like to bring that up. Talk about the understanding in what you're doing in your platform. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially with the human trafficking, and you're right about how it intertwines. And Kit, if you wanna talk, I don't know if you were driving. I know Leslie says she was driving. If you want to interject, then please do. But
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can speak to I speak very openly about what happened to me and how it went down. And, you know, having milled in it for about 13 years, realizing and going back and seeing some of the things where he was prepping me. What's the proper term?
Victimizing.
You know, he was basically like getting me ready for it without even me knowing.
Right.
So I was in the military from 2001 to 2004, and it was my chief warrant officer. He was over S6. I was Camo dog, and I and you know, it was just a really unfortunate situation around Christmas. There was one person in the barracks. My sergeant was sick, so he was at home, you know, checking in on me because he couldn't find anybody to cover, you know, his 24-hour CQ duty. So it just like this, unfortunately, it all aligned to the situation that happened. And, you know, I think when I look back on it, I did do exactly what I was taught. So, when I had to go get something out of the sensitive items closet, which is a double lock door and it's soundproof, right? I left the main door open. I left the big door open. I asked him to stay at the front desk to answer the phone. It didn't happen. He came in, shut the doors, ended up attacking me from behind. There was no way I was going to know.
Right.
But I fought. I did. You know, that fight or flight, I sat there for the first probably what felt like 10 years. And then it kicked in like, oh, no, you're not gonna like, then I fought back. And that's why there was enough probable cause to prosecute, because I reported it. I was one of the brave ones who did everything that I was supposed to do. And, you know, being a survivor of sexual assault, it's life-changing. I had my situational awareness is hyper. I have taken a multitude of self-defense classes. I did MMA fighting at one point. I just because the aggression was there and I used it safely. And you know, when you're really in a situation, you know, I did everything they taught me. Put something between you, move out of the way, say no. You know, you do all those things, but in the moment, it was.
Kit, I'm not. Don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm trying to. North Carolina, do you know they're trying to pass a bill? Excuse me. My daughter showed me this. They're trying to pass a bill in North Carolina that if a woman is being raped, once there is penetration, it is no longer considered non-consensual sex, intercourse. And I'm reading this. I have to look. I gotta find it. But there was a point, you know, that they were saying that, you know, you don't have to say no. Your body language can, you know, be turning against them.
Correct.
Now they're trying to pass bills. And I don't want to get on a political rant, but you got to know who you're voting for, because now these politicians are trying to pass laws that says even if we don't say no, it's just like we're saying yes. They're trying to revert all of that stuff. But one thing that I can tell you, growing up, I was a unit victims advocate for well over 14 years, okay, in the military. And I taught classes. I can't even tell you how many classes I taught and how many people I talked to. But I would always tell the story of my uncle and my cousin. Excuse me. And one of the things that my uncle always would tell me growing up, he said, when you go out to the club, never leave your drink. unattended. And I'm like, why? I never thought about it. And, at that time, I was a teenager and wasn't thinking about partying. And so he explained what happened to my cousin, which is a guy, somebody, and he was in the military, somebody slipped something in his drink. And he now does not have his mental capacity has been tainted because of whatever they slipped in his drink. Okay, that was one thing. So I would tell that story, and I would always tell you got to have your battle buddy. If one person get up and dance, you got to have somebody that's going to stay there and watch your drink. But you got to be able to trust your battle. You have to be able to trust someone that's with you. And I am working with the young lady now that has been sexually assaulted. She's in another state. And I'm trying to do all that I can to help her and get someone down there with her. And the thing was, it was somebody that she knew. Okay. And so what I would tell anyone, and even though we're all grown here, even though we're grown, it can happen to us. Yes. Find yourself in a situation, and I'll tell this one situation about me, and then I'll let somebody else talk. I went to Fort Knox, Kentucky to finish off some of my out processing. Well, I had met this guy who was in the military via email because he was in the department that I needed help in, and we went back and forth. So when I got down there, he wanted me to come and visit him. And I said, okay, I would come and visit him. But because I really didn't know him, I sent the message to my chica, Regina, my buddy. And I had told her where I was going. And I said, if I call you, go along with my call. It was either go along with my conversation or call me in a few minutes. Well, anyway, I got there. This man was in a robe. Okay. He had food for us to eat. And I sat down and I was eating. I felt uncomfortable when I walked in the door and saw him in a robe. Wow. He then asked, did I want to go upstairs and get comfortable and watch television in his bed? And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so I don't know if the stars was pointing in the right way or if the moon was shining where it was supposed to shine, but Regina called me. And she knew. She was like, hello. And I just started talking. She didn't say anything because she didn't know if he was going to be listening or not. And I was like, really? I was like, well, I just got over here. I'll leave in a little bit. And he was like, well, what's wrong? I was like, my girlfriend, she needs me. Something going on with her, blah, 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 blah. And I wound up leaving. Just if something would have happened, reason I said I have been a victim's advocate for over 14 years, you would have thought I knew better. And that's the thing. You think you know better until you're in a situation. So I got myself out of that situation. But if he would have raped me, I would have felt guilty. And that's what a lot of women do.
That is exactly, Cassandra. Like, your story is what we try to share. And I know, again, a lot of us are military and this is a military platform, but your story is similar to what we try to share with all women of all ages. Again, I know it's not gender biased, but my daughter and I are really passionate about connecting more and doing our part with ladies of all ages. Because if we tell the kids these stories when they're younger, it'll prepare them for what they're going to go through. And they'll know this is not acceptable. This is not comfortable. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share my story really quick. When I was I was 17 when I joined the Army, a baby. My mom signed me off. At 18, I was already in my first duty, 82nd Airborne Division, and it made me a cadre. So now I am the face you see when you go through 82nd in processing. I am a cadre. I see everyone who comes through. As a PV2, I think I was just a PV2, private 2. As a PV2 at 18 years old, a cadre meant a lot. That's like giving me some authority in the sense of representing. I'm representing and I'm setting the standards, right? Well, my platoon sergeant was an E7 or E8. I can't remember right now. His name was Sergeant Moody. I like saying the names because I am embracing the stories, right? So long story short, he took the opportunity to tell me, hey, Private, can you go take this stuff to the office? And I said, absolutely, you follow directions. As an 18-year-old who started the military so young, we learn how to follow directions. I didn't question it twice. So here I am, 18-year-old girl, putting supplies or whatever he needed me to take upstairs to the office. I go into the office is empty. His office, he's the main CEO. And he walks in after I'm putting the things inside. I'm in PT uniform, of course. And he takes the opportunity to close the door and pin me to the wall. 18 years old. What am I going to do? He forced himself on kissing me. And all I could do was, he's an NCO. I can't disrespect him. If I say something, it's going to be his words against mine. And so I was able to kind of say, oh, I'm so sorry. No. And I pushed him violently. At least I had the courage to push him away. And then I ran. I never spoke about it again. Into 2 years later, now I'm a sergeant. I am an NCO. And he's still in our unit. And ladies started complaining and they put a report on him. And someone comes to me and goes, Sally, did anything ever happen between you and that sergeant? And I go, what do you mean? Because I was 18 and I didn't get raped. I didn't let him rape me. But he sexually harassed me. Mm-hmm. He forced himself towards me. And I didn't know the difference. I was a young,
that's still assault.
Soldier.
Even though there was not a penetration, it's still considered assault.
And you're absolutely right, Cassandra. And that's why I like saying my story and hearing other people's story is because I didn't know how wrong it was. Because I'm a young girl, What should I have not gone to the office? Would I have been disrespecting an NCO? I don't know. And so I just stayed quiet because I did not know the process. I did not know how to report a kid. I wish I had the courage like you. I had the courage to push away, but that's as far as I go. But because I didn't know the process and I didn't know that was a no-go in that station ever, I didn't know what to do. So if we start advocating and we start talking to younger generations, it hopefully sets the standards to not happen again, or for people to pick their battles, because there's always going to be bad apples. There's always going to be bad people in this world, right? We can't, all be superheroes and save the world every day. But if we raise awareness and keep talking about it with repetition and with knowledge, I hope and pray that we have less victims in this world. It gets me to think about, because I know we started talking about policy stuff, but the I Am Vanessa Guillen's Act, they finally put an act together, which again, I don't know how well it's being executed. It's still fairly new as of 2020 September, but the act is to reform the reporting and investigation of sexual harassment in the military and transform prosecution of sexual harassment and assault. So this is just a big deal because, again, little old Sally at 18 years old didn't even know the process. Who do I report it to? I didn't know that my senior NCOs should not be aggressive with me. I didn't know. I was very naive and ignorant. I was a baby. I was a baby.
Sally, I can relate to that. I was 21 years old when it all happened. I was a PV2 in the military. He was a chief warrant officer, so like I didn't, the only reason I reported it is because all I could think about is if this happens to another woman, I will feel so incredibly guilty because I know I didn't do anything wrong. It didn't change my story. It didn't change the rape. It didn't change the fact that I wasn't able to to process that in the moment. But the good thing is that on December 10th of 2020, it was an 8-0 voting for the Supreme Court. And this one always gets me a little emotional, so deal with me on this one. Sorry, y'all. They made a ruling that if you were sexually assaulted or raped in the military and it was between 1996 and 2006, that you now have the right to take your rapist to court. And I am proudly here to say that I am. I hired an attorney. I have my CRC file from Fort Belvoir that shows that there was enough probable cause to prosecute, and that my chain of command completely swept it under the rug.
Are
So,
you serious?
I
That's awesome.
I have 2 sworn statements from 2 different, you know, soldiers that were in my unit at the time that were told to make me go away. So the beauty of this is that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's why you can shine so bright when you are a victim of sexual assault and when they groom you. And that's something that I think everybody needs to understand what that word truly means.
Yes.
Because grooming is what could have, if I would have recognized the signs of grooming, I would have known that he was starting to get to that point where he was looking for his opportunity. And learning and knowing and understanding how to get out of those situations, I was blessed to have my unit teach me about what to do if somebody's inappropriate when I was in 2002, when I got to Fort Joint Base Lewis McChord. But the saddest thing about it is that you know, it took the courage to report before SHARP was implemented, because SHARP was actually implemented, I believe, in March of 2004, and I got out in January 25th of 2004. My case actually made it to the courts, and I don't mean the courts, I mean Congress, when they were talking about, you know, how to fund money for this, and they had everybody there talking, and they used my case to show that, you know, people need to have a safe space. That SHARP program is important, but when you get out and you're hyper vigilant because of being a survivor of assault, I'm also a survivor of domestic violence from a military member, and it was put me down for 6 months. I had to have reconstructive surgery on my face, and there's a lot that I've been through. So when it comes to sexual assault awareness, for me, it is life. I teach my daughter situational awareness. That must come out of my mouth 24/7. And that confidence, I can't preach about that. I have had men still, as an adult, in my previous job that I carried, I got sexually assaulted twice on that job. And it was not by coworkers, it was actually by prospects. Wow. And I'm proud to say that one of them had to wear a nose brace because I learned that it's okay to defend my body and my rights and myself. And when you are in the military, you don't have that opportunity to feel like you can, even though you know you should, because you do take that chain of command seriously. I mean, it took me a bit because I was so scared about what is he going to say, because he's a chief warrant officer. Like, I didn't know what to do, but I fought back, and that is what is going to make my case stick. And that is why after 13 years of learning how to navigate the reality that I was given, unfortunately, and battle the mental health that comes along with being a survivor, I'm really going to be proud to look him in the eyes on the stand so that he knows what he did. Because it's okay for all of us to talk about it, and we need to talk about it. It's okay to defend yourself. It's okay to say no. It's okay to yell loudly. Nobody has the right to be in your personal space like that ever. And it is a brush of your leg, a brush of your rear end. It is a brush of your, chest area. There are so many things that people miss that start that journey. Oh, she didn't flinch. She didn't get upset. She didn't say anything. Then they move to something bigger. So if there's any young women listening, I want you all to know that it's not
okay.
And not all adults are safe. You need to learn what a safe adult means, what it is for you and your family, and know that no matter what age you are, your parents are your first line of defense.
Yes, they are.
You go to them, you tell them, you find somebody. Had I not walked in the door and completely fell apart right after because I had to sit for another 18 hours on duty, and then go back 2 days later to the same space. But you have to be able to think in the moment, just fight. That is the one thing I can give you. And I don't necessarily mean, don't put yourself in a worse position. Like if they're holding a weapon to you and things like that, fight. Don't stop. Don't ever stop fighting. Because no matter what, at the end of the day, you can survive. You can be a survivor, and you can that's all I do. I advocate for those who have survived domestic violence, who have survived sexual assault. And I am a huge advocate, as you can tell, for military sexual trauma.
Of course. Yeah.
And I am right now, I'm historically the only female that I found that is actually taking their rapist to court since the ruling. It's a hard place to navigate, and there's a lot of rope, but I can't wait.
You know what, kid? It's so amazing to sit here and listen, and I'm glad that Leslie said her daughters are listening. Back in 2003, end of 2003, mid 2004, when I was mobilized in Fort McCoy, we had a National Guard unit from Nebraska that was there with us. And the guys from Nebraska, they were all white. The majority of our unit was Black. So never never thought anything about anything. You know, the team will go out, you know, sometimes they want to go to the club, they go out drinking, this, that, and the other. I would either go to work at Walmart or I'll go home. So this was their last time there. They were getting ready to go back home. So we all out at the club in Toma, Wisconsin. So this one guy get filthy drunk and everybody's just laughing and talking, and I haven't had not one drink. He stumbles up to me and he said, "Sergeant Taylor, I've been wanting to do this to you ever since I met you." And he just grabbed and squeezed my breast. And just so happens his NCOIC was standing next to him. Wow. And I froze. Believe it or not, I froze. And I know my self-defense. I know this, I know that, but I froze. How in the world? I'm like, what the hell? And his NCOIC grabbed him. And he pushed him to the side. And he was like, Sergeant Taylor, I'm so sorry. He's drunk. Don't hold it against him. And I'm just standing there still in amazement that this man did that to me, right? So get to work the next day and I tell my NCOIC, God bless you, who happens to be my cousin. I told him what happened. And of course, he told the rest of the guys. They wanted to jump on him. And I was like, no, don't jump on him. And they said, well, Sergeant Taylor, don't file a complaint because he'll lose his career. He's all in all a good guy. He just was drunk. Wow. So my thing to my NCOIC was, I don't want to work with him. So they kept me on days and they kept him on nights. And as of the day, I don't like going to military balls. I don't like to go nowhere. And it's just the military, because since then I'll go to a club, this, that, and the other. But I really don't like going where people, this is what it is, people that I work with. When they have office parties, I won't go. So my supervisor, who is no longer my supervisor at the hospital that I work at, he was like, well, Cassandra, how come you don't want to be a part and go? I had to sit him down and tearfully explain to him what happened to me and why I don't feel comfortable in going. I said, because I don't know what my coworker feel about me. I don't know if he really got a thing for me, because they'll tell you, a drunk man speaks a sober man's mind. So I don't know if he's gonna, come up to me and do the same thing. What other trauma will that cause me? Mm-hmm. And so that, we have to not be afraid to talk about it.
Yeah. But Cassandra, thank you for sharing that story. I kind of want to talk about, I think we talked about being proactive and how to raise awareness and support, but you and Kit just kind of talk base a little bit on the healing process, right? Because in reality, I still think, Cassandra, you haven't healed because you don't want to go to these socials events, right? Which tells me that there's a lot of work to do, because what they did in the reference of covering for him because his career, that's a no-go. And that's the part. So by the way, I'm so glad, Kit, you brought up the SHARP. It wasn't implemented to 2004. I joined in 2001. So for 4 years, 4 years from when I entered, and I could only imagine before I entered. But for 4 years, we didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I told you 2 years later, I guess a young lady, and I don't know because they never told me the details, someone placed complaint because we were cadres. So someone placed a complaint when they went down to the unit, and then they had to investigate, hey, who else had this man harassed? And kid, I am the one who I feel like I'm still healing, and it's a process. And the healing part is I feel horrible that I didn't report him. And I can only imagine how many more victims after me. I can only imagine how far they went, or how, or how.
Survivor's guilt is a real thing. People need
Yes,
to understand that that is part
yes,
of the process. When you
of the,
learn it's a healing process,
yes,
because
it is. Mhm.
knowing that I reported it, and that unfortunately, and I hate to say this because it's just a sad story, but this is, from 2003 when the
Yeah.
incident happened. My chain of command knew about it. CID's investigation showed enough probable cause to prosecute, and they did not want to ruin his career, so they transferred him, and they did not prosecute him.
Right.
So, it's just a matter of understanding that, like, not everybody's going to process it the way that, say, I did. Like, it took me, I had a 24-hour duty, so of course, and then after being raped, you lose your shit. Pardon my French. But you tend to go back to, I had to go back the very next day because it was 24 on, 24 off, 24 on. And I sat at the desk and I lost it. And all I thought to myself is, could another woman survive this? Because
Yeah.
I've lost a friend to suicide because of rape in the military. So it's one of those things for me that's very deep seated, that if you're scared to tell,
Yeah.
then tell your parents and let them fight that battle. Tell your
Right.
battle. But I have to say, my EOO rep at the time was my roommate. And so it was kind of one of those things where, like, I didn't know what to do. You're absolutely right. We weren't told. And not a lot of women know what to do once they're sexually assaulted. Do you say something? Do you report it? I can give you kind of a step-by-step process on how I handled the civilian side of the sexual assault that I had
Mhm.
last year. I immediately said, stop. You don't get to touch me like that.
Okay.
Do not ever put your hands on me. Thank you for picking up my dinner and my bar tab, because now I'm leaving this meeting.
Yeah.
And I got up and I walked out. I told my boss, we banned him from the organization. And then I wrote a very strong letter about the exact thing he did to me to his work email, and told him that he was no longer allowed to be around me or the organization.
Yes.
It probably should have been reported to the cops. But again, I was 39 years old and still was kind of like, oh gosh, what do I do? Like, do I call the cops right now? Do I go to the cop station? Because being a survivor, you immediately have that, oh, they're going to blame me guilt.
Yeah.
So it's very important to know that survivor's guilt is real. But it's okay, because look at my situation. I reported it, y'all, and he still got away.
Mhm.
So don't hold that in your heart.
Yeah.
Don't hold on to that, because other people may have experienced the same thing. You took that and you turned it into this beautiful organization with your daughter, and you're lighting the way for women of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault. And you're talking about your story. And had I had that kind of support that I wish I did at the time, I
Mhm.
probably would have fought to stay in. I probably wouldn't have allowed them to do what they did to me, had I known that I had that right. So
Yes. And Kit, that is exactly it. So all these forms of abuse, they're mainly about power and control. Because when you hear about who is doing these, like the people who get actually caught and reported, you could see that there's a similar tactic to control the victims. So to me, if we have to talk about the before, what happens during, and the healing process. So all these abuse have similar consequences. And I'm so glad you brought that up. So the way you handle it will be different than how someone else handled it. The way I handle it is different than how somebody else. There's so many forms of handling it. So someone can't just pinpoint that's the only one that we could say is a harass or not, or an abuse. But the consequences are, a lot of us in the healing process are either dealing with depression, PTSD, Cassandra. I think having that post-traumatic stress of not knowing what's going to happen, or, in another platform with coworkers, and mental health. So those are the three things I like to raise awareness when it comes to survivors, because, we don't know what's a healing process for you, because it might be different for you based off your experience. But what I found that was very helpful for me is being able to talk to others, and, understanding that it's okay to feel guilty for not reporting him. It's okay to feel guilty, but you did what you thought was best based on what you knew at that time. And so, yes, raising a daughter and being able to do this annually and throughout, she did a little pageant. It was cute because COVID was driving her crazy. And she's like, I want to do something. And she found that she could do a pageant. Her speech for the competition was about domestic violence and human trafficking. So again, I know a lot of separate abuse, different abuse, but they all intertwined together. And so just sharing story, being able to talk about it, being able to help, and hoping and praying that what you do today would help another person not become a victim means the world to me. And that's how we serve through our community. So we're not in the military no more, Kit, but we are serving through our community. We have that servant heart. And
Yes.
Cassandra, and any of you guys listening, I hope you know that part of the healing process is helping one more person. I know we can't be heroes and we can't save it all. I mean, save everyone or all. But Vanessa, to me, was a 20-year-old girl. And that, like, I thought I was already healing. I thought I knew my purpose in life. I knew how to continue pushing forward, speaking up, sharing my story, helping victims and survivors. But then Vanessa Guyana happened and it came back. So I don't know about you guys, but it just hit me of why after so many years, Sharp started in 2004. This can be true. This young girl couldn't have gone through the same thing that we went through, sexual harassment. So, Kit, like you said, anyone listening, one of the biggest things I tell everyone now is tell someone. Unfortunately, majority of abusers are family members or someone you're dating. So it's very hard to go to a family member sometimes because they might not believe you, but tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell someone, because God forbid that the end of it ends up with you dying. Someone needs to know what happened. That young man who killed Vanessa could have got away with it. You saw how many months he was out there just acting like nothing happened. I don't know if the unit covered for him. I know I heard
No. He killed himself. That when they found out, he wound up killing himself.
But months later, Cassandra, that's what I'm saying. He did it. He killed Vanessa. And
Right.
No one said anything. He was still going to work. No one knew anything. It wasn't until her mom and sister started advocating and saying, no, I've been calling the unit, I've been calling the base, and no one's telling me where my daughter is. And they looked for her body and they couldn't find it, remember? And then they went back to the same locations later, months later. Again, I'm sorry, I get passionate about this because it's just so hard for me to believe that this young man was living his day-to-day business life, and the unit, no one else took that energy, because I'm gonna call it an energy, because I would have said initiative, because I thought that's what we learned in the military. We would take the initiative to take care of our soldiers, but in this situation, if it wasn't for her mom and sister, it broke my heart. It broke my heart to know. We all know when we're in the service, like when you're in the service, you can't sue the service, right? We can't sue them. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell someone, tell someone so they could be your voice if something does happen to you. So yeah, again, it's just, if we're trying to find a way to heal, it's sharing our story, talking about it. And unfortunately, it's been years since I've been out. And our sisters are still being victims. So I do hope and pray that they hear stories like this, they hear us, they hear what's happening, they hear what you're going through now. I thank God I haven't lost a sister, due to suicide, but I have a lot of sisters, military sisters, that been sexually harassed, and we are there for each other. We're our battle buddies. We are our therapy. But not everyone has that. So if they could tell somebody, speak up about it, I hope it shows that there's zero tolerance out there. All this is unacceptable.
Thank you so much, Sally.
If I may interrupt, not interrupt, but chime in. We have young ladies, or our daughters, and they go off to college or whatever, and start to live their own life. I think we need to emphasize and just stay strong in letting them know, if you're dating someone and that person, you all could have an argument, whatever, and you tell that person no, but they still insist on trying to have some type of sex with you, but you steady saying no.
Yes.
You're being sexually assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't explain it to them, just because you're in a relationship with someone and you tell them no, for whatever reason, and they continue to do that, continue that act or whatever, it's still someone is in your space and you tell them no, they are assaulting you. We have to let them know or advise them what's the difference. Love is not going to hurt you or continue to do something to you that you continuously say no to. And I'm not going to go into it, but I think we just need to emphasize it to our young girls,
Yes.
and even our boys, because true enough, no one talks about boys getting sexually assaulted, but they do. They have, there's a difference, but if this your first relationship, you head over heels, like, oh, he wouldn't do anything or she wouldn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. But yet and still they push themselves on you. Our children need to recognize the difference between someone loving you and someone treating you any kind of way because they can.
Preach.
Yes, Regina.
Yeah.
It's so true. Again, I feel like even when I create, me and my daughter had these events once a year, there's so much we could talk about, and so stuff like that, Regina, that we have to reach out to our other sisters and have them help us share our stories, talk about it, because abuse comes in so many different forms. And yes, we understand it's all connected with like control, their tactics and control and power, but anybody or, any age. And like I said, it's not gender bias. You're absolutely right. Boys as well. As a matter of fact, in Fort Bragg, when I was in Fort Bragg from 2001 to 2008, a lot of gentlemen were being the target. So our safety briefings every Friday before the weekend was, be careful out there. Don't leave your drink out, like was saying. They knew about the sleep pill. And then you feel like something happened. Like, your body tells you something happened, but you have no clue because you had that drink. So yeah, gender bias for sure. I wish that I could connect more with the males, but I don't. Me and my daughter don't. So we do try to focus on young ladies of all ages, all age range, because I'm hoping that, hey, my daughter pointed that out. Mommy, we don't talk, like I talk to my daughter about everything. When she started a new job, I said, hey, baby girl, you young, and these cats are going to be out there watching you because they're going to feel like they know more than you. They have this power over you. Negative, and I joke, I said, negative, grasshopper. No, you tell me right away if someone tries to pin or do something, because that's what I know. But if I could share stories like that, Regina, to my daughter, baby, when you go to college and you think, you're in this relationship, but you said no, he is not authorized because he was your boyfriend. These are symptoms of abuse. These are all symptoms of control over you. And you, zero tolerance. Again, I have zero tolerance, because if you love someone and you care about someone, you wouldn't hurt them.
Sally, there, and like I said, 14 years of doing this, and I've been out for the last 6 years, I think. So this video that we used to show, well, that I would show before I would do my sexual assault presentations, it was a man and a woman in the bed. And before it was called consensual contract or something like that. And so the two of them will be in a bed, and before they start their interaction, each one of them had a lawyer on the side of them with the contract. And it says, okay, know this. And he would say, okay. Then his lawyer would say, you can't do that. And she would say, okay. And they were going down all types of positions and things and all of this other kind of stuff that they could not do. And they made it a joke. But in reality, it's the truth. If I tell you, you can't do this to me and you still do it, you have drawn the line.
Yeah.
So it's sad. And then I know Millicent, she's certified in the military and she's going to the classes now. So I know she want to say something because she done took her mute button off.
I would like to talk. I noticed what y'all didn't touch on was married couples, how that could happen to them. And it's still at the end of the day, no mean no. And I think when you're going on the civilian side, I think it's looking into what resources that you have available in those states. Like I know here in Wisconsin, we got different resources here in the state for, if what happens to a survivor or something dealing with domestic violence, how those two link, like what you were saying earlier on that. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
No, you're absolutely right. I know I said like partners and family, but I wrote it down because I think a lot of people don't realize the primary reports when it comes to human trafficking, domestic violence, and sexual assault. The primary personnel doing it are family and intimate partners. So either they're married, they're dating, and it's all about, again, the control and the power. And it's unfortunate that I just got this statistic. They did it in Atlanta, Georgia. I forgot the organization, but they just did a statistic and it just hit me in the face really hard. Number one place they're finding victims of human trafficking is from the church. So here we are going to church, the place of God, where the place of people worship, that you feel safe, your sanctuary, and they're using it as a target place to find victims. It's so sad and so unfortunate, but it's usually sometimes closer to home. And so I truly believe that as long as you speak up and say something, say it to anybody, a best friend, or, I'm glad that Vanessa had her mom. Again, I always go back to that. I'm just so glad that she told her mom she's been harassed. Her mom recognized, she came to visit her mom. And I apologize, that's the most latest, military story I know. So I really digged into it. But Vanessa tells her mom, she goes visit her mom just like any, 4-day weekend. And the mom noticed that she was acting different. That, Vanessa was like really, hype, happy go lucky. But that weekend that she came visit, she wasn't the same. And the mom was like, listen, mija, something's wrong. And the mom read her, like, I could see it in you. And she didn't want to tell her. And then she finally says it, I've been harassed. I try to report it and nothing has happened. Her morale was so low. So people knew in the unit things were happening. It's just she didn't trust the process because she did try to report them. And that's the sad part.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I think when it comes to the process, I think, remember, it's two types. You got restricted and unrestricted. Restricted is where you got one where you get the whole command involved, and that's when they prosecute. And then you got the one where you just file a report. But you can also, once you file a report, you can change over, but you can't go from restricted to unrestricted. Yeah.
I think, you know what, I used to always get that backwards, but I think
Yeah.
unrestricted is when you can report it. And unrestricted is where you report it to the command, something happens. Restricted is where don't nobody know about it. It's
Yeah.
just there, but you can't flop from
Yeah.
unrestricted to restricted. If you tell everybody and then you change your mind because he apologized, you can't go back on that. But if
Yeah.
you didn't tell anybody and now you want to tell somebody, you can do that. So yeah, I've always had it backwards. But unrestricted is where you want to tell the world, and restricted is where you don't.
Yeah, and I think it was, they just changed a little bit more to it. It's getting a little bit more intense now. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit
Yes.
more intense.
That's good. They need to, because it is doggone, the stuff that's going on is ridiculous. And then
Yeah,
they fired that whole command, Vanessa's whole command. They
yeah,
lost their job because didn't nobody do what they were supposed to do. First of all, oh, we lost Regina. First of all, okay, yeah, ladies, wonderful conversation. Yeah. And this may hit a lot of people. You know what I mean? So, and that may be why we didn't get too many people on this. It's a sensitive subject because we don't know what they went through.
yeah,
But I know for certain that with her command, by them not saying anything, because one of the guys that was down there, I had posted something on Facebook. Didn't I won't say I didn't know what I was talking about. I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't have enough information. And somebody inboxed me who knew the family. And he was like, Cassandra, I can't tell you publicly what's going on, but it's a lot of, and because I'm recording, I can't tell you what it was, but it's a lot more stuff going on down there than what the news is telling us, and it's bad. They don't want to scare us because there's some crazy mess that's going on. But she went there. Someone called her into work and nobody was there but her. Okay. They didn't know who called her into work. It wasn't that guy. So they're thinking that that guy had somebody to call in. You know what I mean? But is in the military for me, and I went in 85, went to basic training in 86. Okay. I couldn't go nowhere without my battle buddy. And there was private mail. Wherever my drill sergeant told me to go, private mail was right there with me. But what happens as we get older, and even with me, I'll say even with me and my age now, we get complacent and we say we're okay, we're gonna be okay. So we'll leave and not tell anybody where we're going. I had just met this guy and I sent the message to Millicent and my daughter, and I said, hey, this is the man's address. This is what he looks like. I'm getting ready to go over there. And they was like, okay, they chuckled, but they was like, okay. And then when I left, I said, okay, I'm on my way home. We need to always do that because you never know what's on somebody's mind. You know what I mean? What can, I don't know. This is a subject I can talk about all day because it tugs at my heart. Like I said, I did it for 14 years. So it tugs at me, and especially when I was a victim of it. So it just tugs with me.
So just imagine that, Cassandra. This is the uncomfortable conversation that people listen. Look how many moms don't talk about sex with their parents, their kids, and look how many people can't even talk sex to their parents about. Like, so it goes in different generations, different comfort zone. So I think that you're right on. You're hitting the nail right in the head in the sense of it's an uncomfortable conversation. It's something we're all passionate about because either we were victims ourselves or survivors of victim. And I make that very clear. I wanted to bring that up one more time, just in case no one heard me the first time. But your children if you are a victim and your children have seen the abuse and have seen situation, that are not accepted, they are victims too, and they're survivors of victims. So they're dealing with similar consequences as well. They don't know how to talk about it. They don't know if it's acceptable or not. Should they allow someone to do those things or not? So again, I just ask, if I ask anyone for a favor, my only favor is to not be selfish and keep these conversations to yourself. A friend, a neighbor, anyone, just reach out to one person. It will make a huge difference. You will be surprised how many people have never talked about, an assault that has happened to them, because they probably don't know, if it's okay to talk about it. So it is okay to talk about it because it's part of the healing process for some of us. Some have to write it down, write it in a journal, in a diary, write a letter. I know a lot of assault victims feel really good facing their victim. And I know Kit is not on the line anymore, but she said it. She can't wait to face the gentleman who abused her. And so there's different ways to heal, and it just depends on the person. So just talking and raising awareness is one little step, that can make a huge difference.
Yep.
I'm not in the military no more, so I'm very you could talk to anybody, do whatever you want. But if you're in the military, that's the part that I see the struggle too. In the military, everyone needs to know the process. They need to know this is not acceptable, zero tolerance, and the unit has to support them, but I'm not in the military, so I'm just trying to help any and all victims, and I'm trying to reach out to any and all ladies of all ages. But the same, gender bias, gentlemen and kids, boys, they should hear about it too. But my daughter and I, we really try to connect and empowering women to be more confident and not become victims.
Yep. So this was amazing. I mean, it's good information, and we had who we had on here.
Yes.
And I appreciate it. And like I had said, we are in October is ADHD Awareness Month, but we always do 2 classes a month.
Okay.
So we need to put something out there, because it's a hot topic. But I really, with your organization, and Millicent will be retired by then, I really want you and Millicent to get together on some stuff, because I don't want to lose this. I really don't. Until we can get a handle on some things. They and what got me today, they brought it back up on the news.
Mm-hmm.
That son of a gun that was in Wisconsin that killed those 2 little girls. That was part of why I started Top Flight, because of that. I gotta figure out a way to do self-defense virtually, because I don't want to put any of my ladies at risk here in Chicago, and I don't want to get anybody here and then turn around somebody contract COVID. I really don't want to do that. I want to try to do something virtually. Situational awareness. They just gotta get it together.
Well, I look forward to working with Millicent. And matter of fact, Millicent, I am open to learning what the new process is and in the military, because again, as a veteran, I want to keep supporting veterans. Right now, my focus is on anyone and everyone of age group for ladies. And I'm not on base anymore. My husband just retired, but I would love to know. I'm all about being educated and knowing the process in the military. And we could talk about the process out of the military and the resources out there. I know it's different in every state, but how they could find resources in different, based off where they're at, if they're victims. Thank you, Cassandra. I really appreciate this opportunity. I can't, I get too emotional if I keep talking about it. So I can't talk about it all day, every day. Like in like consistency, it's still part of my healing process, but it's something that I think I'm very open to discussing. I'm very passionate about it. And I do hope and pray, you know, that we could continue doing what we do by serving our community and raising awareness.
Yep. We're going to keep on talking.
Yay.
Yes, we're going to keep on talking. But so stay tuned, Sally. Don't forget to go into our website and register for our newsletter so you can find out what we're going to do in May. We got a lot of good stuff going on. A lot of good stuff.
Thank
And
you.
we need as many people as we can. So spread the word, Dirty Bird, what we're doing.
I will. Thank you.
All right, everybody. So
Thank
tonight's
you.
the night.
Thank you so much.
Good
night, ladies.
Come on.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, y'all. Love y'all. Have a good night.
Love
Good night.
you. Good
All right,
night.
bye.